So, John, welcome to Unspoken.
Thank you.
As you
Thank
said,
you for having me. Aye.
no,
Yeah.
100%. There's so much I want to ask you, but first of all, I've got to ask. So, outsiders,
Mhm.
the outsider. So, did that come because up here we cut the heel?
Okay.
So, down south it's the outsider, for a loaf of bread.
For a loaf of bread, as well, it depends where you come from.
Aye.
But where I was growing up, definitely that was what we called it.
You
Was
call it the outsiders?
Yeah.
So when I first saw the name, I was wondering what it was about,
Aye.
and then but then I took a bit of a deep dive, and the work you're doing is phenomenal. It's
Thank you.
absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you very much.
But why did you get started doing this? Because obviously, for anyone listening,
Aye.
tell us, what it is that you do, why you got into it, and
Right. Okay. So this all began for me. It was on the. I'll even tell you the date. It was the 23rd of December, 2021. I was Christmas shopping in Glasgow with my wife, and it was one of these days. It was freezing cold, and it was pouring with rain. So we all had our umbrellas up and the big coats on and whatever. And we were walking down Buchanan Street, and I spotted a guy actually begging, and the guy was soaked through and freezing, obviously. And I went over, so I'm saying to my wife, look at the state of this guy, look, this looks to be his lot. So I went over to talk to him, and as I was talking to him, I realised he was rough sleeping, and
Yeah.
this is where he lived. He lived on the streets, and it's the first time you kind of realise, wow. And then everything that he had it with him. So he had these. There was a number, just 2 or 3 wee bags he had with him as well. But this was all the stuff that he owned in the world,
yeah,
and it was all soaked through, right? And the other thing is that the best I could do was give him a cup of coffee, right, and a sandwich. Even all the, he hadn't anywhere to go and stay that night because even all of the shelters, they were all full.
yeah,
And I felt absolutely terrible that all I could do was give him a sandwich and a cup of coffee. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do something about this. You know, I'm maybe not going to be able to help this guy, but I'm going to do whatever I can for as many people as I can from now on. And that was how I actually started. Now, as a wild swimmer, I had one of these branded changing robes at the time.
okay.
And I thought to myself, I wonder if I could actually make these.
So the robe is that like a towel kind of
No,
thing,
no, it's a change. It's like a
like a dressing gown?
it's a coat. It's a waterproof, windproof, and
Okay.
fleece-lined coat. So it's
Okay.
a proper
Aye.
coat. And I thought, I wonder if I could actually make these and donate them free of charge to guys that's rough sleeping. And then when I was thinking about it a wee while later, what I had, the guy actually even had his sleeping bag on, right? And that was soaked through as well. I'm thinking, so I wonder if I could actually make a coat that converts into a sleeping bag
Oh wow.
and donate them free of charge. And that's what we've done, and we call it a sleeping coat. So this sleeping coat, it's waterproof, it's windproof, and it's fleece lined. And that's what we donate now to guys that's rough sleeping. And we started, I think it was probably got to be about the June of the 2022, the time I got everything all set up and
Yeah.
whatever. And that is when, so since then, we've donated over, or provided anyway, over 300 sleeping coats to guys that's rough sleeping. Yeah.
Can you just say that number again?
Aye, just over 300, aye. And by the end of this year, I'm hoping for it to be up at least 400 or 500.
Now, for anyone listening, and for me anyway, it's easy to say 300 because that's an impressive number, but I don't see 300, items, the outside of the apparel. I see 300 people.
Yeah.
That's 300 people's lives you've changed, affected in a very
Yeah.
meaningful, positive way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sometimes get, I think they get a little bit like, I don't think afraid is the right word, but when it comes to contributing, giving back, charity or whatever, I'll maybe do that, later on in life, or just it's not for me. But when you're affecting someone at that level, which is you're physically making a difference to their day, to their world that day,
Yeah.
and with the temperatures in Scotland can plummet, especially in December. That's life-saving stuff, mate.
Yeah. So, see, just on that, so as I say, we've provided over 300, donated over 300, but I've handed out about over 100 myself because what I like to do is, so see if I just step back a wee bit, Steve, when I was actually designing it, I thought, right, this is what it's got to look like and whatever. And I had them. I done what I called my 12 nights of Christmas. So I went out, this was 2022, so I went out and I slept rough for 12 nights with some guys that was rough sleeping as well, alongside some guys that was rough sleeping. And I got their inputs on the coat as well. So I knew that it was actually designed and fit for purpose, okay? I got some really good feedback, some of it that I used, some of it that I didn't know. You can't use everything.
Yeah.
But one of the best bits of feedback that I got was the guy said, what you need is you need a zip along the bottom of it.
So like, aye.
No, see along see where your feet go in.
Aye.
So what is the coat? And it's when I say it's a coat that converts into a sleeping bag, what it is it's if you just imagine having a long coat on,
Okay.
or just down past your knees, and then the bottom section comes off, and that's on with a zip, okay? But I didn't have a zip, but on the bottom of that again, there's a zip, right? And I'm saying to him, so why do you want a zip? So I can run away, if I get any bother and stuff. And it's like, wow,
Oh,
I never thought about that.
That's really
And
interesting.
and I think this is the value. So I had in my mind what I thought they wanted, right? I was probably about 80% there. But all the inputs that I got for these guys was fantastic, and that's what's made it into the coat that it is now. So I know that it's fit for purpose because I slept out for the 12 nights in it. I know it's designed for purpose because I spoke to the guys that actually use it, and it's just fantastic, And some of the I've had two bits of feedback that I remember, and I used. So one of them was that when you're actually giving somebody something of value, it doesn't really matter who they are, right? If you give somebody something of value, they cherish it, right? They accept it, and it's what they want. And what this was I was giving it to the guy, and what you're essentially saying to them when you're giving somebody something brand new, somebody that doesn't really have anything at all in their life, and you're giving them something brand new, you're really saying to them, I care about you. Right, I value you.
That's it, isn't it?
And you're giving them something of value.
And do you think if you're rough sleeping, you're going, and we're going to touch on this because there's a lot of important things here, but they really must feel like ignored, but not just by the people that they care about, but by the world, because the world's kind of going by them daily.
Yeah.
And because they're outside all day and all night. So they are sort of like, they're more in the world sometimes than we are, because we go back to our nice cosy houses.
Exactly.
Well,
let me kind of expand on that a wee bit for you, Steve. So when I said I slept rough for 12 nights, what I'd done is I slept out for 12 nights, because in the morning I went home.
Okay.
Right.
So I love this. I love this candorous side. I'm in. This is ace. No, because I love that. It's because you're doing something really powerful. Because my heart's in this, man.
Right. Good.
And I'm loving what this is happening. This is ace.
Brilliant, aye. So, and I've got to tell you about. So I went home, right? So what do? You go home, have a bit of a sleep, I got a shower, get my breakfast, and it wasn't until it was the March of that year, or just March of last year actually. I got invited to go down to Manchester, and it was to sleep rough for 55 hours. So it wasn't doing a sleep out. This was sleeping rough for 55 hours. No money. I took my phone. That was the only thing that I had. I could take my phone.
Aye.
That was the only thing, as I say, that I had. And I had my sleeping coat. And I had another bag for another. I can't remember why I had another, like a change of clothes to put in when I was finished or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember, Steve, right? But anyway, so the first night, so we get there, probably about 5 o'clock. So we have to go and get something to eat, right? So where do you get something to eat? Well, we need to go and find like a soup. What do you call it? A soup kitchen type thing, right? So, so somebody handing out food in the middle of Manchester, and you go along there, and you queue up, right? And this is completely alien to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And it was like, what would you like? I was, I'll just take a curry or something like that. No, you need a sandwich as well. I said, no, I didn't need. You'll need a sandwich during the night. When this, I said, all right, or you'll need something for later on.
Yeah, the fuel.
Right, aye. So I thought, right, okay. So I took it and put it in my bag and whatever. So that was it. Then we went to try and find somewhere to sleep. And So we slept. We looked at some places and can I do there? We tried to get somewhere a wee bit of shelter, or a wee just like an overhang type thing.
Okay.
So we eventually found somewhere, and we kind of get settled down. And this would just be about 9, 10 o'clock at night. You know, we went to the buckets to get some cardboard, so you've got something to lie on. We're trying to make it as authentic as possible,
Okay.
essentially. And then what you get is the guy coming, oh, you can't sleep there. You know, well, with a Manchester accent, you know, you can't sleep there. Why not? Well, this is private property or council property or something. I said, but what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, no, you can't sleep. You need to move on. Right, okay.
Oh,
so
wow.
we moved on, found somewhere else. It's fine. And then, so you didn't sleep, basically. You got up in the morning. It's all right saying you're rough sleeping, but you got up in the morning, and the first thing you do when you get up in the morning here is, like, I think I'll have a shower, I'll have a coffee, or brush my teeth, and whatever, right? Didn't even cross your mind, right? And this is from a personal perspective. It's what it was, is that, where am I going to get something to eat? Where am I going to sleep tonight? You know, that was the first thing. Where am I going to sleep tonight? Then where am I going to get something to eat? So what we'd done is we went and we found it was like a cafe.
Okay.
Not a cafe, it was like another kitchen, but it was somebody providing a breakfast.
Okay.
So we went in, we had our breakfast and one thing and another, and probably finished that about 8 o'clock. So you're up early, you know? And the thing to keep in the back of your mind there is that, so I've still no had a wash, I've still no brushed my teeth, right? So what we do is we go and find somewhere to spend the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a beautiful sunny day. It was cold, but it was a beautiful sunny day. And it was on, I forget the name of the street in Manchester. It'll come back to me, but it was the main street, the main shopping street in Manchester. So I'm sitting a bit of a seat, not as comfy as this, but I was sitting on a seat, and I had on my sleeping coat. I had my bag with me, you know, the bag with the stuff in it, and I had my other bag. And I was thinking, this has got to be great. I'm going to have a lovely day here, you know, sitting in the sun and whatever.
Yeah.
And it was getting busier and busier and busier. And I thought to myself, this is brilliant, but it's the loneliest I've ever felt in my life.
Really?
Right? Nobody spoke to me. Nobody spoke to me. Right? And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? And then I had other people that were rough sleeping. No, they were rough sleepers.
Mm-hmm.
They came up and spoke, but it was as if I was invisible. Do you know, honestly, the place was, I don't know if there must have been thousands of people, but what it was like is if I was just invisible. You know, you're looking at people and they're just passing you by, try to ignore, no, as if they were ignoring you, as if you weren't there. As I say, this guy came in and spoke to me, and what he was saying, so see you're new and whatever, would you like to, you know, there's a few of us here. I said, no, I'm fine. And then I got thinking about it afterwards, right, because I knew I was going home the next again day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, you know, give it another 3 or 4 days, and if same guy comes and talks to me, the fact that nobody's talking to me anyway, you need to have some level of social interaction.
Yeah.
So I probably would have went.
No.
I would have went. Of course I would have went. Because you need this, and then you're part of that. That's then your norm, that's your community. So you get there, and would you like a drink? No, I'm fine. Do you want drugs? No, I don't do drugs, mate, you know.
Yeah.
You think another 3, 4 nights of that, do you want a drink? I don't think I would ever have done drugs. But what the point I'm trying to make here is that it's not the person that you are, it's who you become. Do you know?
What an interesting distinction.
So what it is the person that you're seeing after, the person that you're seeing on the street is not who I am.
Yeah.
Right? It's who I have become. And I make, the point I'm trying to make there is that, when you mentioned earlier yourself, is that, you know, it can happen to anybody, you know? And once you're out in the streets, we all need to, what's the word? You need to, no blend in. What's the word? You need to acclimatise. It's not the right word.
Acclimatise is a good, right? I like that, yeah.
You need to what your new environment is.
Adapt to your environment.
Adapt. You need to adapt, right? And so that's who you then become. And once you're in that situation, you know, with talking to with folks and whatever, it's not the easiest to get out of. Do you know what I mean? So, but there's the thing, as you meant there, about being alone and one thing like that. That for me, that was one of the big things for me.
Yeah.
But the other thing, sorry, just to finish that, Steve. Later on in the day, somebody did speak to me. Somebody did come up and speak to me. How you doing? How you doing, mate? And it's like, wow, I felt brilliant. Just the fact,
just
that,
even a day or a couple of days into that experience.
yeah, well, that was like the first day into
That was the first day, but
aye.
like that's how quick
Oh, definitely.
and the shift in like the emotional kind of spectrum of like, you know, because we all have varying feelings throughout the day. We
Yep.
all do.
Yeah.
You can have a fantastic morning, you know,
Aye.
by afternoon it could be the worst day you've ever had.
Aye.
So, but when that experience, you've went from, you know, like you've went right through a lot of emotions to the fact that someone just speaking to you was enough to shift your entire day.
Yep.
And you're only like you're just kind of you're sampling it because you're not having to live there for it, you know. But the sample enough.
I know I've got an end point to this.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Aye.
It's the next day, but I think it's just like I think what it is how it changed so much for me, right? So if I was to go and sit in a seat in that same street now, where looking presentable, and you're walking past, as an example, you're past,
Yeah.
how you doing, mate? You'd probably say, I'm fine.
You think nothing
Right.
of it.
Think nothing of it,
Aye.
right? But it just showed you how quickly perception changes when you get into a circumstance, and that's the thing that's what made me feel that's the thing that got me. It's like, wow, I'm invisible here.
Yeah.
You know, I know.
This is so interesting. There's a couple of things I'm remembering. There's a video. It's a guy that's made it to prove that point. I think it was in New York that he made it. He got dressed up as a homeless person. And I think he was homeless for 2 days, you know, to actually be the smell, everything, you know.
Yeah.
And he was on the streets hurting. He was, oh, help, walk. Everyone just walked past. Somebody walked over him.
Aye.
And I'm like, fucking hell, humanity can be pretty bleak sometimes. You know, it can be quite cold. And then he did the exact same thing, but he got himself in a suit. Everyone ran to his aid. And you're like, God, we're so judgmental. You know, society, we're so judgmental. It's become, the adaptation has become twin-folded because people that are rough sleeping, you know, homeless and that, they have adapted to that world, as you were saying. But we've adapted around them too.
Definitely.
And that is something I think is maybe worth visiting for anyone listening. I don't know about anyone else, but it's very rarely that I walk past somebody and they're on the street, and this is weird as well because I've noticed nobody's carrying money anymore. And the amount of time because over the years I've always £1, you know. Sometimes I give them, you know, a crisp note. I know when I was in Edinburgh last year, I gave somebody £100. I was drunk. It was out, and the rugby was on last year, and I was having such a great day, and I was like, "Here, man," and it started raining. It's £100, you know. And he's like, "Thanks, pal." And I was like, "Nay, bother." Next day, I was like, "Oh, for goodness sake, Steve, that was a lot of money to just hand away." But I giggled at myself, and I thought, you can't fit. Even when you've had a couple of pints in you, it's still, because they're still a fucking human being.
Yeah.
I know what they're going to do with that money. I know exactly what they're going to. But do you know what? None of my business. As long as I can show that person that somebody noticed them today. So.
But see a thing there, Steve, is that it's a strange. Well, it's a common perception. You know what they were going to do with the money, right? And I'm assuming what you mean with that, they're going to buy
drugs
or alcohol, you know, and you know that's not always the case.
No, 100%.
It's like everything else, you know. There's a small percentage of folks that's not on the streets who spend are alcoholics and they take drugs.
Absolutely.
And whatever, you know. So I'm going to say it's a small percentage of people that do that. What you may find is that, but it happens, you know, it happens, and that's it. But a lot of them will use the money to try and go into like a shelter, right?
Okay.
But the thing is with the shelters is that I think they're more dangerous than sleeping on the street, you know.
Really?
And it was like one guy. It was a lady that I was speaking to on the streets, and I was asking why, you know, because she was begging, you know, but she was rough sleeping, and they tend to know they're rough sleeping. Well, they tell you they're rough sleeping as well, but
Yeah.
generally if they've got their bags with them or something like that, that's a wee bit of a show, do you know? But what she was saying is that she'd prefer to sleep out on the street than to actually sleep in a room, you know, because she's safer. And it's like, well, how are
Wow.
you safer? She says, well, you know, the thing is, so you're coming along here and talking to me right now, you know, and this is where it got pretty scary actually. She says, you're talking to me right now, you know, if I choose to, I can run away. I could just go and run away. You know what I mean? Because I'm on the street here, there's people round about and whatever. She says, but if you're standing in the doorway to my room, where am I going to go?
Yeah, it's like you're trapped, aren't you?
You're trapped, you know? And it's like, wow, you know, you don't think about these things, and it's just like,
This is
you know, that was a bit, that kind of hit home for me.
that's
you know?
a huge one. Do you know what? I appreciate that you holding me up to a higher standard there.
How's that?
Because well, I did. I went straight to the. I think I know what the right way to do with that money. That's judgmental. No,
Aye,
it's
aye.
wrong of me. It's such a cliche, easy thing to say.
Aye.
No, I appreciate you
I
holding
think
me up to that.
No, that's fine. It's
No,
fine to say,
because
yeah.
see, this is interesting because one of the most powerful things for me for this podcast is so that I can become better.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've spent a long time. Sorry, mate, I've got a tickly cough today. I'm trying to be a better individual. That's not easy. We often think to ourselves, if I just lose weight, if I save a bit of money, or if I be a bit better or turn up on time, whatever the thing is. But over the years, I've had to deal with, I was a chronic people pleaser, lacked healthy boundaries, I was codependent. That was after dealing with PTSD and depression and suicide and facing so many things. But trying to be a better version of yourself means listening.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. So I appreciate that.
No, you're very
You know.
welcome. Sorry. And I think
No,
as
don't be
well,
sorry.
it's
I'm
like-
sorry because I keep coughing today.
Aye, aye.
I'm on this podcast with you and I'm like, I've got this
Aye.
niggle and I'm like,
See, the thing is you know, about being a better person. And I don't know if we're getting into psychology here or not. I think everybody is who they are. There's just something, you know, I never knew until that precise moment that I was going to do what I was going to do, you know, to help. It took that. Now, I don't know, like you, I don't know how many folks I've stopped and spoken to.
yeah,
Or given you know, I've never given money. I've tended to give like a cup of coffee or a sandwich or something like that. I tend to do that. And it's just what you. I think it's just you're just trying to do something good. But
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it before about giving back. I never kind of thought about, you know, you hear about this giving back and you think that's a bit of a cliche.
yeah,
It's like, well, what can I give back? Because I've been an engineer all my life. You know, what do I do? But it's just the fact is that I'm doing what I do now and I love it. Do you know? And it's just I feel as though that it's the right thing for me to
Yeah.
do now. And talking about being judgmental, where I give somebody a coat, and what it is the criteria that they meet is they're on the street and they're sleeping rough. That's it. What you know, I'm not going to judge them for wonder what they've done. I wonder how they're here.
Yeah, of
you know,
course,
they're
yeah.
looking a mess or whatever. You know, it's just like it's to be non-judgmental, and that's it. And the key thing for me is that why I do it is that, you know, see when somebody's see if any of us, irrespective of who you are, see if you're wet and you're cold, you're miserable.
I've
Right?
had a lot of experience in that.
Right, well there you go. You're miserable, right?
Yeah.
When you're warm and dry, you feel that bit better.
Oh,
you know,
aye.
your mind's that wee bit better as well. So what our plan, or what the whole thing for us to do, is to make somebody warmer and drier immediately. You know, it's not the fact that you're going to say, "I'll tell you what, mate. I'll talk to my mate tomorrow, and he'll come along here, and we'll do this and we'll do that. Or he might help you to do this." It's like, no, here's a coat, right? This has got to keep you warmer and drier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel warmer and drier, you're in a better frame of mind to maybe go and do something to get yourself off the street. So it's almost like breaking the cycle. We're trying to break the cycle. I'm not here to solve homelessness or anything like that. The focus is on helping people immediately that need that help at that time. And that's what our focus is, and that's what we do with the coats. We're doing a wee bit more now about education and awareness, and we'll talk about that in a wee while, Steve. But
Please, yeah.
that's the thing there. And if you think about it, being warm and being dry, that's two of our most basic human needs.
That's
so
right.
if you can help somebody to have two of their most basic human, it's sad that you need to do it.
No.
But if you can do that, that's a fantastic thing to be able to do.
In the military, when we're doing survival training, you start thinking about all these like fancy things, and then they bring you right back down to earth. Like, there's only 4 things you need, boys. You need shelter, food, warmth, and water. That's it. That's all you need to survive.
Yeah.
We're not talking about having a great day, about the fit bag going your way. When I discussing that 4 basic elements, but then you have to start the change order, because if you are in the desert, your primary need is water, because you don't have to worry about heat.
Yeah.
Then you realise that it can get icy at night in the desert. Like, I didn't know this. When I was in Iraq, I'm like, loving this heat, until it got 63 degrees, which was torture. But at night, the minute the sun goes, it plummets so rapidly that it's so distinctive in the shift in temperature. Sometimes you're waking up and there's ice on your sleeping bag, and you're like, how is this possible? But it's just part of how the world is. So we had to learn which was the primary need. So we're talking about things that really are the basic, primal.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that might be something, I don't know if I'm right here, but you were talking about people adapting to their new environment, coming into that kind of baser human feelings, like, shit, like, nobody's talking to me. There were studies done with babies who they died basically because they weren't touched. They weren't picked up. This was, in like, I think it was in former Soviet Union or like in parts of China, but babies that were, I can't remember whatever the reason is, they became, orphans, but they weren't picked up, and they died. There was no illness.
Wow.
The need for human connection is so fucking important. Sometimes giving them that cup of coffee, like I heard you saying, like, don't do too much. A wee cup of coffee, a wee sandwich. I'm like, no, mate, you just fucking saved somebody there. Maybe you didn't save them from a danger, but you maybe saved a part of their soul. That maybe just for 1 minute they were like, fuck me, somebody actually saw me today.
Well, see, the thing is what I was talking about being in Manchester. And I would say the guys that was rough sleeping came to talk to me. Well, only a couple of them did. But see, when that one person who came to talk to me that wasn't a rough sleeper, they were a shopper.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, and that was why we go into schools now and we do a bit of talking. And one of the most important things I say to kids, is, as long as they're with an adult or a carer or something like that, is that just say hello. How you doing? Something like that, because that will have such an impact, on somebody that nobody talks to, or that it's just in their own wee community. But you've got somebody there that actually, and when you're saying something, you're giving them a wee bit of dignity back as well.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I'm a real person. Actually, I really exist here. People see
I
me.
matter.
I matter,
Yeah.
exactly. So although it's a small thing, and you're getting on there about your basic human, the 4 elements that you need there. But the thing is, that's the 4 things that you need to survive.
Yeah.
But if your mental health isn't there, if you're feeling depressed, that's a big thing.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah.
So I was blown away by that. Obviously the base level stuff is the absolute basic thing, just to not die.
Aye.
And then you work up the pyramid. Basically it's an incremental, but it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Aye.
But we're leaning into that kind of stuff. Like human connection. Like the bonds between people, and this is fucking. It's just remembered something. I don't know if you maybe came across this, but men don't tend to really talk about things like poetry. You know, it's a bit of a. But the reason I'm talking about this is so I write. I love words. Poetry is a huge part of my life, and it became very, very real for me after I've been in wars. So I've been four tours of duty. I've been in war a couple of times, and you start to see the world, its complexities and its depths. You start to ask questions like, what does all this mean? What is all this stuff that I've been through? What does it mean? And that's kind of when I was mentioning earlier that I was homeless, wasn't on the streets, thank God. But Ethan Hawke, an actor, was talking about poetry. You know, it's whatever until your father dies, or you lose a child, or you go through something really tough, and then poetry isn't something that's a need; it's sustenance, because it means something. Then there's so much. There's not enough conversations about this stuff. These people on the streets, people. We can say the homeless, or there's so many horrible words, but they are fucking people. And I am honestly human beings. Yeah, but we're touching on things. It's interesting because I wasn't sure what the conversation was going to flow like today. We're talking about this wonderful work you're doing, this charity, not charity. Is it a social enterprise? Is that the kind of
social enterprise?
Social enterprise, yeah.
See, just before we move on to that, I wrote a poem about a guy off sleeping, and I'll read it out to you later on. Right?
Mate, see, thank you.
I'll do that. Right.
I'm getting goosebumps actually, mate.
We're a social enterprise. Now, when I first started, what I wanted to do is I thought, do I become a charity?
Yeah.
I thought, no, I don't want to just take donations. I want to actually, just giving something back. I didn't want to just take money. I want to be able to do something as well. I want a product. Then I went the other way, and you're thinking, so if you'll think about a charity, all your money come donations, right? If you become a private limited company, then all your money essentially comes for the product or the service you deliver.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, something, I want a wee bit of both.
Okay.
So what we do is I'm a social enterprise, and the specific type of social enterprise I am is a community interest company.
And what's the difference?
So community interest company sits under a social enterprise, right?
Okay.
But what it is my community are rough sleepers.
Okay.
And that's globally. Do you know what I mean? So for the start, I want to be able to help as many people as I possibly can that's rough sleeping.
Wow.
So my community are rough sleepers, and that's it. So what we do is we make and we sell our changing robes. You'll be able to see one of these later on.
Yeah, we'll get them up. Yeah.
Reinvest all our profits to make our sleeping coats.
Okay.
And we then donate them free of charge to guys that's rough sleeping.
Yeah.
So that's how we actually fund what we do. We take donations as well, but through the profits from the sales of our coats and the donations, that's how we fund our sleeping coats.
This is really, it's quite ingenious. You're getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Which is actually a friend of mine started a charity, Eastern Veterans. He's a great guy. Very hard thing to do. Starting a charity, it's like there's so much hoops and red tape and that. Yeah. But you're quite limited. It's all donations because you can't sell anything, can you?
No.
So this is really smart.
So I'm a registered company as well.
Yeah, no.
And it's so I'm a registered company. I'm registered through Companies House. So it's all everything.
Yeah, above board.
Everything's above board and whatever, and that's basically what we do.
Yeah. How does it make you feel?
When?
Doing all this? Sorry.
No,
you wake up in the morning, and this is what you get to do. How does it make you feel?
Brilliant. It's very... interestingly enough, we were coming up in the car, and Gintari had said to me, you don't take compliments very well, John.
I could see that.
And it is, and I don't. I'm sorry, but maybe I don't, right? But I appreciate it. But I think what I do is I know that it helps people. I know that it helps people in need. But I'm motivated to do this.
Yeah.
And I suppose when I first retired, basically, when I first stopped working anyway, right, I was made redundant. and I love working, but I didn't want a job.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And so I said, what's the difference? He said, well, a job is you're beholden to somebody,
Yes.
right? You've got
Oh,
all
what a
these
good,
different
it's
things,
fucking
right?
awful, isn't it?
And I said, I didn't want a job, but I want to work.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I do. So I do something that I love doing every day. I still have time. I've got 5 wee grandsons, and I still spend my time with it. I've always had my day with the boys, basically.
Yeah.
The oldest one's 12 now, but I always had my day, during the week when I had one of them, and I've now have 4 of them on a Tuesday now. But it's that. But I mean, so when I say that I work, so I can work, but I've still got my quality time with the boys, which is fantastic. And I forgot what I was talking about there, so I better just come
How
back
you
on
feel?
track again. How am I feeling?
Hear me, I feel like I'm in right good company, mate. Cause right, so just I've got
How am I
like
feel?
how you feel?
It feels brilliant.
Because you can't take a compliment. That's what you're saying.
No, I can't take a compliment. I don't. But see, when you're actually, so I'll give you an instance.
Okay.
So is this all right? Aye.
Please, mate.
Aye,
This is fucking ace, man.
So we were going. I was had a meeting in Edinburgh, and I was walking along George Street, and there was I spotted a guy. He had on one of the sleeping coats, the outsider sleeping coat,
Okay.
and so I stopped to speak to him. I said, "How you doing?" Blah blah blah, and I said, "Where did you get your coat?" And he said, I got it from the Breakfast Bothy, which is a charity that we donate some of our coats to. They buy some and we donate some and
Yeah.
whatever. I said, it's brilliant. And he says to me, where did you get yours? I said, I actually make them, mate. And he goes, wow, that's brilliant. He says, I can't believe that. You know, he says, these coats, this is the thing that got me. These coats are life-saving, mate. And I thought, brilliant, brilliant. And it was just and that was a fantastic feeling.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help that one. But I don't know why I don't. I feel as though I take I know you're meaning it and whatever.
100%, mate. Aye.
I don't know. Maybe I need to tell my face. I don't know. If it's something, but
Yeah, listen, mate. I could do a better job of taking compliments.
Aye.
Because it's sometimes I think, especially, I can only speak for men, but I know me as a bloke, but like. I'll say things like, so my brother is brutal with his candorous. Not brutal, he's just like, he doesn't mince his words.
Right, okay.
So I know that when he's telling me something, it's the truth.
Right.
And so my weight has yo-yoed over the years. And I was a bit chunky about a year and a half ago, and I was like, that's it. Fucking had enough. Sitting having a pint with my brother, and he's like, I says, I'm getting back. I'm going to go to the gym. And he's just like, shut the fuck up, Steve. You're talking absolute pish. And I was like, he's not even joking. I was like, but he's being honest with me.
Aye.
You know, he wasn't trying to hurt my feelings.
That's just him.
It's just being the truth, you know. But that was enough to get me to change. Because I was like, he's right, I'm speaking shit. I've said this so many times now. Why should he believe me? So sometimes when people give us a compliment, they're so high in the volume of it. Oh my God, yeah, you're the best, you're the great. And you're like, yeah, all right, even I know you're speaking shite.
Aye, aye.
But the subject matter of this, you know, it speaks for itself. So no, you know, you are doing some really amazing work there. But so what did you do before all this?
Aye, so I've been an engineer in all my life, actually. I worked with Hewlett Packard in Agilent for a number of years. And then I finished up at another electronics company, basically Jabil in Livingston. So I was head engineering at Jabil in Livingston. But I suppose what's allowed me to do, so I've been it's been electronics manufacture, but I've been in procurement, been in design, worked in R&D, and then in terms of procurement, dealing with, like supply chain, but dealing with vendors and suppliers, one thing and another. So I know that whole process. So I know nothing about coat manufacture. I know nothing about the materials that's in coats, but I do know about materials and material science and what that means. So I've got the knowledge there. I've got the knowledge of manufacturing, how you manage a supplier, how you get what you want from a supplier, purchasing, how you go about, I suppose purchasing then in terms of what you want to purchase, how you want to purchase it, how you want to make it. So for example, what our process is that it's a make to buy process. So, sorry, a buy to make process. Sorry.
Okay.
So if you want to buy something from me, right, you pay for it before it gets made.
Okay.
So everything's handmade in Scotland. That's the other thing.
So it's handmade.
Everything's handmade in Scotland. Yep.
Wow.
All our products, and they're only made when you order it. So it's made for you. And if you and I were to order the same size, the same colour, on the same day, they would be that wee bit different
Mm-hmm.
because one's made for Steve and
Okay.
one's made for John.
Yeah.
And I don't have any stock, do you know?
Wow.
Because I choose not to have any stock because I don't want to have any level of debt, or if I change the design, then I don't have to, I don't have any old stock to do. We have some
Yeah.
samples, but it's the fact is that when you buy it, then it gets made for you.
Yeah.
And the thing there is as well is what you've got is that when you're buying one of our coats, you know that the profits that's from that is going to go to help make a coat for somebody that's rough sleeping.
There's something I really like about that.
What about a coat?
I didn't care much about that. This stuff. He's a natural born salesman. I love it. No, it's just the way you were explaining it there, and I was just picturing stuff like, it was when you said we don't hold too much stock. We've got samples. I was just thinking like, racks and racks of shelves, all this stuff. That would kind of annoy me because as in like, how many people could that be helping today? But there seems to be a kind of intimate thing there, like a closer connection that each one that's made feels very personal. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And it's personal. So if you're getting a coat made for you, it's personal. But even the ones that's made for guys that's rough sleeping, it is personal in a way because it's approximately for every 2 coats that we sell, I can make one for the guys that's rough sleeping. So let's say you and your friend bought 2 coats today. The sleeping coat that results for that is personal because that's came for you two. Do you know what I mean? And we're talking to Gintari about it and that as well. We're thinking of maybe sometimes just putting a wee message in the pocket. What would you like to say to somebody that's on the streets? What would just a wee something that's there. It's when they, you get it and they put their hand there. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a wee message.
Oh, it's nice.
Aye. So we've not done it yet. We've done it. I've done it a couple of times. But again, it's just trying to get into the routine of that.
Yeah.
So, did that answer your question?
It
or
did.
you not even ask me-
100%.
Did you not even ask me a question?
Oh, mate, you're going to have to come back, mate. You're on. Are you sure this is only your second podcast, mate?
That's the second one, aye.
Ah, you're a natural, mate. This is
Aye.
brilliant.
Aye.
I did have what was I going to say there?
All right, thanks. Yep. Didn't need to do a retake, did we?
Nah, it's all good. It's all good content, man. I like the whole polished, perfect kind of thing. That's hard as day,
Aye,
you know.
aye, yeah.
Just real life. Everyone knows what this kind of thing is. But what was we speaking about?
No, that was the thing as well. Gintari we were talking about.
So for anyone that's just listening, who's Gintari?
Sorry, I've got to say that's around there.
Yeah, that's all over there. Just for anyone that's maybe listening, you know.
Sorry, Gintari's works with me now. We actually managed to get we got a grant, and that grant allows me to pay Gintari to work with me now. So we've got it for a year. Basically for the 1st of January to the 31st. So Gintari's my first person that we've employed essentially. So. Yep.
So that's it. Like you're not just like creating a product that is in need. I've just remembered what I was going to ask. But you're hiring. So you're really, really doing some good stuff here. That was what it was. I don't know if my numbers are right, but is it like maybe the current numbers that people rough sleeping in England? It's like 4,000. Scotland 2,500, I think, or like Wales it's in
couple
of hundreds, yeah.
Yeah.
That might seem like a small amount of a number to a lot of people, but I come from a town called Banff.
Uh-huh.
And when I was a bairn and growing up, it seems like a lot of people. It's not a city, obviously, it's a wee town. But there's 5,500 people in it.
It's the whole town.
So if I was to say to myself, right, that's a whole town. What would that look like if you drove through in my entire hometown of Banff, or wherever it is that the person's listening to? You know, where did you come from again?
Livingston.
Livingston.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're from Livingston and you're hearing this, imagine if that was that whole side where you are, all in the street. That's a terrifying visual.
So here's the thing as well. So you talk about the numbers. So that's the official numbers. 4,000 is it in England. So let's just go with the 4,200, 4,000, 2,000 in Scotland, and in Wales it's something like 300 or 200 or something like that. You know, it's like they're smaller numbers compared, but they're still every bit as important.
100%. One is too many.
Yeah. Now, that's that. Now, there's an organisation called Chain, which I think is combined homeless and information network, and that's a private network. Sorry, that's a network that's been set up particularly in London. It was set up in London, and what they were saying is that they were counting them, and they had up to, I'm sure it was like 11,900 they had counted, and that was in London. Now, the thing is, they're doing it a bit more regularly. How they do the official counts is they go out 2 nights a year. So they'll go out in, I think it's March and October generally. March, maybe April and October. I think they're 6 months apart. And what they do is they'll count the number of rough sleepers.
Okay.
Right? So if you're not rough sleeping that night,
you're not counted.
Or if you know that somebody's coming to count you that night, and you didn't want to be counted, you're not counted. So the official figure and the unofficial figures are, you know, they're poles apart.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I was actually, I had to do something in a school a few months back, and it was like, let's have a wee look at what's going on here, right? So if you look at the number of people that's homeless in the UK, we were in a school, so let's just say for Livingston. So it stretched, if you were to put them all together, shoulder to shoulder, we'd go down past Newcastle.
Wow.
Right? So just think of that, just as a visual there for you, right? Then the other thing is that when you look at the 2,000 in Scotland, 4,000 in England, then you add up the 11,000 or the 12,000 that comes from the chain. But there's also, you know, unofficially, I reckon there's about 10,000 women are not counted.
Why is that?
Because they're not visible
They're
to be
just
counted, right? Women tend to try and be a wee bit more
hidden.
Hidden's the word for that, yeah.
I mean, would that be because
they're more vulnerable?
More vulnerable, yeah.
Aye,
That
right.
pisses me off. That
Right.
really upsets
So
me.
now you're into 22, 23,000 people. Now, I don't believe for a minute there's 23,000 people, but I also don't believe for a minute there's only 6 or 4 or whatever it is, right? You know, and that's that's kind of the thing, and the way that they count them differently as well. So you can't say that, you know, that. So in England, for example, how they'll count them is the way that I told you. You know, they'll go out and they'll do 2 nights a year. Whereas in Scotland, what it is when they apply for homelessness assistance, they ask them, have you been rough sleeping in the last, I think it's 12 or 14 days or something like that. No, it's like, so they even count it different. So there's nothing there.
If you don't fall into that tiny little bracket window.
Aye.
Which is 12 days is not a fucking long stretch of time.
No, it's something like that, you know, and maybe it's a wee bit like, I don't know, but it's the fact, have you rough slept, right? Yeah. Now, if you answer no, or you're too embarrassed to say that, then that's it. Now, what happens if you are rough sleeping and you've not asked for homelessness assistance, right? Okay. So, for me, and that, as I say, that's a person, I just feel as though, from an engineering perspective, you know, you always, you know, anytime that you do anything, what you do is you'll define the problem, you have a problem statement, you'll get the data, you'll make sure the data's good, you make sure the data's correct, whereas here, I don't believe, well, the data's not correct.
No,
right?
I would agree with you.
Right.
And the reason I would agree on that is not just simply because I think it sounds right or I want to be, you know, appeasing. The current statistic for mental health in the UK is it's 1 in 4 people I call bollocks. Without a doubt, in my mind, 100%. all of us. Because it's such a weird, 1 in 4 people experience mental health. I'm like, let's break that down. You're saying that only 1 in 4 people today feel something. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Because we all have a different variation, there's a different, the word I thought there was pulse, there's a different, like, how people are feeling in that particular moment in the day. It fluctuates, but everyone feels stress. Everyone feels, so that's when I wrote a book, I didn't just talk about mental health, I kind of honed in more on the stress, because then it doesn't feel like a stigma. It doesn't feel like a scary word. It's like, oh yeah, I've got stress, you know, got fucking stress. Put my socks on, you know. It's the same fucking thing.
See, you say, sorry, I'm butting in here.
No,
but
you're
you
not
say
butting in, please.
Stigma. You know, that's a word that we had a wee chat about earlier on, but what does stigma mean?
Stigma, everyone kind of has their own take on it. For me, so I call it the unspoken wound. It's part of our experience of being who we are. And there's things that we say to ourselves that we don't say to anyone else. And we carry them with us. You know, how someone treated you when, you know, you didn't get picked for a football team, or that carries throughout your life, you know, because now you're having to deal with rejection issues. You know, you might not put yourself forward for the next thing because you don't want to be rejected. We don't often revisit these feelings, but they're unspoken, but they're there. Stigma is a practical way of looking at it is, there's no fucking way I'm bringing this up at work, because if they find out, I'm never getting promoted or my career's done. That happened. It's happened to me. It's happened to millions of people. You know, you can talk, you can bring it up. You know, we're a caring person, we're a caring environment. The minute you bring it up, people treat you differently, like you're getting a break. Oh, they've got depression. Watch yourself around. So they're coming back to work. Everybody watch yourself. No, don't fucking watch yourself. Treat them like you used to treat them, because they're still the fucking same. They're probably stronger. Because, you know, like in engineering, I don't know if this is right, but it's stress testing. You know, we find out what the maximum load capacity that it can take. Like, it's break point. You know, people are like that. We have a break point. And like all systems that work on pressure, because we work on pressure, we've got blood pressure, we've got body temperature, but when we're pushed too much, we pop. Now we understand that, but there's not a stigma on a broken bone. You break your bone, remember when, like, if you ever had an injury at a hospital, a sprained ankle, oh, all right, how's it going, pal? Oh, what you in for? Like, it was common. What you? Oh, I cracked a knee the day I fucking. Oh, I did that last year. Why can't we have that? What you in for? Fucking anxiety just popped today. Stressed out my head. Oh man, I was in there for depression last month, man. Why can't it be the same?
Well, I suppose the thing is what you're saying there about stigma. So for me, it does have a negative connotation with it. You know, it takes that negative part to it. However, you know, it's a good thing you're talking about there about the engineering, about your stress testing and your break point, because I feel as though that when you break, you come out stronger on the other end.
Yes,
so
you
you're
do.
a stronger person rather than a weaker person.
Well, when
you've admitted to yourself, I suppose, you know.
I broke my left wrist 5 times when I was a bairn. They broke it the 6th time because they'd set it wrong. The nurse had set it wrong, and they put it in a plinth like that when it was supposed to be in a thing like that. But they said, if you break this again, Steve, we're going to have to put pins in that in it. Years and years later, I was an army boxer, so I'm in a boxing team, and I'm like, why is my left hook, like, it feels like concrete, like hard. I'm right-handed, but my left just, it felt like it had a bit of substance to it. And I was young, I was full of ego and, you know, all that bravado and stuff, and I was like, fucking left hook on this, I felt great. But I was like, why is that? So I started looking into it, and then I discovered that when you break a bone, it grows back stronger. Nature's way of saying, like, this is not good.
Let's make it better.
We'll prepare for the next time this might happen. I'm not saying that we just want to be breaking things. But, and I studied it and I found out that it was true because Muay Thai fighters, they break the shin constantly. Well, you know, they batter the shin. So they wreck the nerves on it, and it turns the bone almost into concrete. That's why they're able to hit so hard with their shins. Because you catch your shin, you're like, oh yeah, bastards. They don't have that problem. They're battering trees and stuff. So the human body does come back stronger, but it still had to go through the break. People can only take so much. We can. This is interesting. There was World War II POWs, and it was an American group. I think it was American Airborne, might have been 101st, but they got, I think it was Japan, and they were POWs. Now, we have this belief when we're growing up, I'd never break under torture, I'd be able to handle it. And what happened with these guys is they were all breaking, and they were coming out like broken men, like because they'd just given up a piece of information, because they snapped under torture, and they were like believing going in that I won't be the one that breaks and snaps and lets my friends, my comrades, and my country down, because that's a lot to hold in, what an amount of weight and pressure. So the leader decided, the general at the time, or the captain or whatever, said, right, we're all probably going to die here, so what can I do here? And they created this system where it was, we know we're all going to break. It's just a matter of when. My job is to make sure that you don't die inside. So when they came out and they broke, they were like, we broke too, mate. We're all, and they all realised that this was just going to happen. So they've taken these studies to show that we are not machines. We're living creatures that have needs, and when they're not met, we turn into something that we weren't meant to be. And you were touching on that earlier, the person that you meet in the street, that's the person that they've become. That's not who they are. And it's interesting because, God, I mean, what was it? There was a person in the street in London, and it jumped onto a piano, and it was like a symphony he was playing. The person that you saw
wasn't the person
didn't look like the person that could create
that.
something so fucking beautiful, like art. And everyone was like, wow. And if everyone's thinking the same thing, doesn't look like he should be playing that. And you think,
how's that happen?
How's that happen? What was that life before?
I think, see, just a bit like that is that what we've started, so in terms of homelessness, so the figures are growing, the number of folks that's on the streets growing as well. And from a personal perspective, I don't believe that throwing money at it or building more houses is the way to go.
Okay.
We've been trying to do that for 2,000 years and it's not worked, right? So I think it's about prevention rather than cure. And in terms of prevention, I feel as though that it's education and awareness at whatever level, primary school level, secondary school. So if you get that as part of your education system, now, it's not something that I can do, but what I can do, to help that happen, is go on and talk to kids at school to make them aware, give them a bit of awareness, and maybe, if we can get into the fact that if you're more aware of it, you know what rough sleeping is, you know what homelessness is, and if you can if you're made more aware of it at school, as you get older, then you'll recognise maybe some of the symptoms, if you like, and hopefully be in a position not to get yourself into that situation. So we've now been going into schools. We've been in. I think I've got to say I've been into about 7 or 8 schools. I was part of another. It was like a dragon's den for kids. It was the social enterprise academy. It was called, and managed to speak to about 100, 120 kids that were there that day. Again, about the story and what it is. But I've gone into another few schools, so see if you can get more kids with that wee bit more knowledge and awareness of it.
Absolutely.
Then I think that's the way I think how we're going to cure homelessness is through prevention rather than cure. Rather than curing it the traditional ways, essentially.
This is. I think you're absolutely right. I totally agree. there was, over the years, when I came out of the army, there was no help for me, as in the mental health that I was struggling with. And that's easy to say, I was struggling with mental health. And there's a reason I'm telling you this stuff, because a guy called Gabor Mate, you ever heard that name?
No.
A great psychiatrist, doctor, Gabor Mate. And he spoke about looking at addiction. Why is someone taking whatever substance it might be? You know, alcohol is the biggest one. You know, there's cocaine, crack, heroin, all these. Why is this person doing this thing? Because they weren't raised to do it. Something's happened.
Uh-huh.
So the addiction or whatever substance they're taking is, it's not what is wrong with them. That's what they're taking because there is something else happened to them. They've been let go. They've been rejected. They've been abandoned. They've been, sexually, have been through something really horrific and really traumatic. This is them coping. This is them escaping the pain. Just like if you burn yourself, what's the first thing we do? We hold ourselves close. We nurture it. Oh, I'm sore. I've hurt my. We become extremely vulnerable. That's why when somebody goes is in a fight, and it might be that they're losing, which is awful because nobody wins in a fight, but when they realise they're in danger, is they curl up into a ball. That's how we were in the womb. That was 9 months of the safest place we've ever known. Inside your mum's belly, in the womb where it's warm, cosy, safe. It's beautiful. Everything's given to you. Your all needs are met. And it's mad because that's how we get the indentations in our palms and our hands, because we're so nuked in for so long. That's where all that comes from. But that's why when somebody goes into that position in a ball, it's them going into a child.
And a safe place.
Safe place. I'm scared. I don't like this. I want to go back to the most naturally known position. And we never forget it. Our instinct is so deep rooted.
Yeah.
We don't even think about it. We just do it,
The other thing is as well, I suppose when you go into your bed and stuff like that, sometimes you curl up into that as well, actually, aye. Steve, sorry, can I go to the toilet?
Dude, 100%. Let's just take a minute.
Right.
Watch your headphones, mate.
Oh, right.
This is brilliant.
Right, no,
No, let's take a break. I love that you've just done that. There's a toilet back there, mate.
Just yes, so 3 doors on the right.
Well, let's just jump back in now.
that's better.
I felt that, mate. Aye, do you know what? Like, I'm glad you've done that. Because you're the first person that's ever done that. Because one of my guests we had on, Amy, we were approaching the 2 hour mark, and like 2 hours is a long time to go, Ken. If you're just sitting and you're thinking about needing to pee, she got up at the end and she's like, "Busting for a piss." But I was like, "You could have just went to the toilet," but nobody does. Because we're so fucking polite. But you're like, Stevie, I was about to stop you right there. Man needs a toilet. All that says. Aye, we were speaking about pain, Gabor Mate, like addiction, like the reason that was it. Something I wanted to touch on was how somebody becomes homeless, how they end up sleeping rough. They're in that space now. Because, look, most people aren't spending their time researching this kind of stuff. Which is fair, we're all busy, that's great. But I almost was that person. So I live quite a laughtered life, a good, happy person, because I've chosen to be, because I've been through. It's weird sometimes if I list it all out, like the amount of shit I've been through. I don't bring it up too much because it's quite mad. But one of the lads actually this morning noticed something, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "No," and he's like, "You're fucking lying." I was like, "You bastard, how did you know?" And he was right. And so we had a quick chat about that, and he's like, I was like, that's freaky that you noticed that. You know, and it's quite a new person in my life, so it was like, why do people that are like really close to me not notice? I was really interested about this. So I when I came out of the army, I was littered with fucking shit, unwell to the bone, PTSD, depression, suicidal attempts and ideations, anxiety. These aren't just words to me. Like, I was, at the time, I didn't know what the words were. They actually didn't tell me that I was depressed. They just said,
you were real. You were feeling. There was real feelings that you had.
I actually, the reason I struggled with it for so long, and I kept it so hidden, is because I actually believed that I was the only person in the world experiencing this. I mean, like, for years.
Well, there's two of us, because I feel that way as well. There's only two of us.
Right. But
No, but sorry, I'm not making fun of that. It's just
No, I know
it's
you're
amazing how when something happens, you feel you're the only person that's
Right.
actually happened to.
And that's
Do you know
that
what I mean?
isolation,
Yeah,
loneliness.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you've had higher standards for yourself. And, well, for me anyway, you know, I'd lived a pretty excellent life. Not rich or anything. I was a fucking soldier. I was skint. You know, when I was in the army, I actually had to take food parcels there. While serving my country, I had to take food parcels to put food in the Bairns belly.
Wow.
And I remember that was while I was still on camp. And I remember thinking, this doesn't feel right. Didn't tell anyone. Found out later on, thousands of us. Thousands of soldiers getting food parcels. It's weird. Now, when I came out of the army and I was struggling, I'm going to have to talk my way back to remembering what it was I was going to say. Which is ADHD.
How does it happen?
Yeah, how does it happen? So it cascaded. And I always remember it feeling like rope that I was trying to catch, but it was being pulled away from me. You know, and no matter how hard the harder I tried it just got pulled away even faster. Which, you know, it's like when you're a child and you don't want to make a mistake, you end up making the mistake. You're like, oh no. But when you're not thinking about it, it just goes so perfectly. But I'd come out of the army. I actually find it hard speaking with this because I'm embarrassed. You know, it's a part of my life. I'm like, I haven't revisited it too often. So, anxiety, I was diagnosed with PTSD, which I later on found out is brain damage.
Wow.
Neurologically, your brain has rewired itself physically. I studied this stuff. It was remarkable what I found out. So no wonder I wasn't doing too well, you know, because my world had changed the way I felt in the world. Anyway.
Permanently.
You can change it,
Back.
rewired in a different way. We can talk about that later. So things were going wrong financially. I had £14,000 when I left the army. Felt like a lot of money, really did. And I went to buy a house. Couldn't get a fucking house because they were asking for crazy prices. It was £64,000 for the house I looked at. Offers over 120. I'm like, just not a chance. And that was like kind of the lowest I could afford. And then the market popped. 2008 crash. Nobody was getting mortgages, so I had to try and get a council property. I'd only just come out of the army. They told me I wasn't allowed one because I hadn't lived here long enough. I was like, I was fucking born here. I'm coming home. They're like, yeah, you're just not part of the community, so you can't get on the list. I had to private rent, and I remember they put the private rent up, and that was it. Broke the camel's back, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back, and then it just cascaded. Mental health, struggling at work, in and out of a job, drinking my way through the fucking pain, all that stuff, and then the rent went up, lost the house, ended up homeless. The council said, we don't have to house you. We can house the kids, but we don't have to house you. And I just remember thinking, how the fuck has this got to, how have I got to here? I'm trying to do the right thing. And we had a temporary accommodation, and I got evicted Christmas Eve. And then there was nowhere else to go. There was no other organisation, there was nothing. So the only thing I had within my grasp, I thought, how the fuck do I get attention onto this? How do I fix this problem? I'm out of fucking ideas. And I remember somebody said, you should take this to the press. I was like, really? They said, well, one of two things will happen. They might give you money for the story, which they didn't, or you might get somebody that notices it. So I basically went to fight with the council. I was like, this is what's happening to me. I'm not a criminal. I'm not trying to steal or take. I just want a fucking house. That's all I'm asking for. You don't even have to, nothing in it. Give me the shell, But they wouldn't. So we ended up having to continue to private rent. And that cost me financially over the years because I couldn't get the money that I'd saved up went. But I was technically homeless for a small amount of time.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, I'm about 10 hours away from being on the fucking street here. Like, I was and I was like, this is fucking real. This is real to me. So when I see people rough sleeping on the streets, I can generally think, I bet it wasn't even that different from me and how you ended up there.
Definitely. Some of the... and I think as well is that a lot of folks think it's no me. I'm okay, I've got a house, I've got a job, I've got a good house, I've got a good job. But the statistic is we're only ever 3 paychecks away from being on the street, right?
Really?
Anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, what money you've got.
That makes
like
a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you can be, in terms of, I've spoke to a number of folks on the streets, but the one that surprised me was a doctor.
Yeah.
I'd actually spoken to a doctor, and what had happened is, I'm not going to go into details, but she had worked in a specific department. She worked in A&E essentially, and it was getting a bit much for her, and she tried to take her own life. The thing is, she was brought back into the department that she worked in, which was just a bit too much for her. So it went a kind of downward spiral into mental health and one thing and another as well. So so there you are. It can happen to any one of us at any time. We can all be, we can all feel as though we're doing great, everything's going well, and just suddenly bang, and that's it. You're on the streets. And I think the thing is as well is if you just just imagine it, just to so let's just say, for example, you're in a house or you're renting or one thing or another, and it doesn't matter how much a job you've got, but probably the better job you've got, the better house you've got, the more rent you're paying essentially. But if suddenly something happens and you lose the job, for example, you lose the job, you can't then afford to pay your accommodation, so you can maybe go and stay with some of your friends and whatever. But eventually, if you didn't get another job, you eventually end up on the street. It's just how it goes. Or that's one of the, it's maybe the worst case, but it can happen quite quickly as well. There, like yourself, there, what you're saying is that if you hadn't went to the press, you would have been out in the street.
100%.
And that didn't, well, maybe took a wee while, but you know what I mean? That was your only option, is what I'm saying.
Definitely
right?
felt it at the time, yeah.
Right? You maybe go and stay with friends, but just if and then you've got maybe mental health problems, maybe there's a relationship breakdown, and what you tend to find is the man is probably the person that leaves the house, and if he's not got anywhere to go, then, he ends up in the street. Now, let's just say that he had a job as well. Now, if you're turning up at your job and you're not functioning well, then you're not, you're not going to stay there long either. So it's just that. So there's, you get your mental health issues. You've got your, the housing crisis that we have at the moment as well. You've got like a marriage breakdown, a relationship breakdown. There's a whole number of things that you can end up on the street with, and that's the point away the way back at the start. The person that you see there is who they've become. It's not the person that they are.
Yeah.
And this can happen to any of us at any time, essentially.
I think that might actually be the most powerful and meaningful ways of looking at that. The issue of the thing. We can look at it and say, like, the problem of homelessness. Well, let's just fucking take the word problem out of the fucking equation.
Aye.
It's something we need to address, that we need to look at and change and solve, whatever. But when we look at it as in like the problem, that's mathematical. That's kind of like problem solution. That's linear.
Uh-huh.
We're dealing with things that, as you're saying here, like a culmination of so many miscellaneous, chaotically strange, weird, idiosyncratic kind of mad things that have happened, and it really is like life can be simple, yeah, but at the same time it is infinitely complex. The amount of things that have to have a good analogy, totally left field, but I remember reading a book years ago called Think and Grow Rich, and there's a lot of good things in there, but one thing it spoke about was the simplicity of having a fried breakfast on your table. You've got a restaurant.
Is that Napoleon Hill that wrote
Was
that?
I Napoleon Hill? Aye. It was sparked by Andrew Carnegie, though. But it was they were discussing, a fried breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, beans, cup of coffee, cup of tea, whatever. All those things had to come from all over the fucking world. The eggs came from, let's say, Devon. The sausage came from, maybe came from, like Germany. The beans came from, wherever they came from. The bread came from Spain, or whatever the porcelain that the cup was in was, manufactured in Chile. The cutlery was from Sheffield. But then you've got the delivery drivers, the freight, the transportation. Then you've got the manufacturing. Then you've got the sales, and all the pieces of that one meal. Then you've got the chef that cooked it, the waitress or the waiter that delivered it, the cashier. There's all these fucking elements just so you can sit down and have fucking one meal. And it really made me go, holy fuck, I've never thought about it that way. That's what's happening to people who are on the street. There are an infinite amount of possibilities of things that have transpired for that to happen. Because nobody fucking wakes up one morning going, goodness, bloody fucking fancy being homeless. You know what I mean? So the way that you describe it, I really like this, and this is yours.
Thank you.
That the person that you're looking at, what was it what you said, that the person that you're looking at is not the person they've become.
It's not who they are, it's the person they've become.
Yeah, it's not who they are, it's the person they've become.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and, you're paying attention to this or you're hearing it, next time you walk past somebody and you can see that person's struggling, just remember that's not who they are, that's who they've had to become. It's a really, really powerful distinction. And
Definitely.
I think if more people have heard that, they maybe go, do you know what, actually, look at people that go through domestic abuse. Like, that's not who they are, it's who they've had to become.
Yeah.
They've had to adapt to survive.
Yeah.
So they become a shell. We say I was a shell of my former self.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's. I'm just thinking of all these ideas, but or analogies. I remember the first time I got promoted in the army. The minute I was, excitement, great, and then I was like, oh fuck, shit. And then the first thing they do is they don't go, oh congratulations, well done. They go, what is it they say? This is the hardest one to get. It's the easiest one to lose. That's what they say. And they were right, because
You lost it.
I lost it. Years later, I lost it the same week that I got promoted to full corporal. They actually bussed me down to private. I was signaller. I didn't know at the time, but I was really unwell. I was struggling making. Well, actually, no, I got fucked over. I did, but
it's who you became. It wasn't who you are.
it was who I became.
It's the same
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sorry, my brain's thinking of a million things here. I'm just really. What's the word I'm looking for, mate? I feel inspired by the work that you're doing. You are an inspiring person.
Oh, thank you.
But we've got. Can we have a look at some of this stuff?
Aye,
Yeah?
definitely.
Is that
Aye.
right? We can get some. Is it
Gintari,
Gintari?
Let me.
Can we
You want to hear a poem, actually?
Aye,
I'm quite proud of this poem, actually.
I'm glad you remembered.
Right.
So glad.
Let me see if I can find this.
I'm going to get a drink of water while you're finding this poem. Left it on the table there. This has been one of the most rewarding conversations I've had.
Yeah?
Yeah. It matters to me. You know, this stuff matters, and it's definitely an unspoken thing. It's not spoken about a lot, so it definitely fits. I care about people. It's just
So they are,
it's just
do you
as
know?
simple as that.
And I think it's, and I don't know if it if you change as you get older. You probably do.
I think you do.
I don't know what way you actually change in. Do you change? It's no for the better or for the worse. You just become different. You know, I think it's like you mature, I suppose,
Yeah.
and it's based on your experiences in the past and whatever. And I suppose if you look at what I'm doing now, is this what I thought I was going to be doing when I was this age? Nah. Did I think that all the training that I'd done or all the the work that I had done previous to this was to culminate in all this? No. But see now when I look back, I think I use all of the knowledge and experience that I've ever gained,
Yeah.
through working and as I say in engineering, to do what it is that I do now. And it's actually it's quite strange how that happens. Do you know why did that happen on the day that it did?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
did it have that impact on me when I've walked past? I've spoken to a whole number of guys that's rough sleeping or begging or whatever. Why did it happen on that day?
Yeah.
And if it happened on that day, I believe because I was able to do something about it. I wasn't in a position to do anything about it beforehand. So, you know, this is a strange old world we live in. Do you know what I mean?
It is, isn't it? The
Aye,
world's
aye.
fucking bonkers. I mean, it's fucking bonkers now, but we're not going to get into that.
Right, you want to hear this
I would
poem then?
love to, please.
Right. So this, I wrote this after I had been rough sleeping in Manchester for that weekend.
Okay.
So let me take you this in. So when you pass me by with curious eyes, do you imagine my life is just full of lies? You'll see the dirt ingrained upon my skin, but not the battles I fight within. Do you see a drunk? Do you see a loser? Do you see a smackhead or an angry boozer? A waster who stinks and begs for a living, who takes and takes with no sign of giving? Or do you see me as the loving son, the sister, the daughter, the doting mum, the brother, the husband, someone's dad, or the person I was till my life turned bad? What do I see when you look at me? I see the person I used to be. Just a few weeks ago, my life was a blast, but today, I'm the guy that I walked past. This is not me, but who I've become. I'm not a waster. I'm not scum. So please don't judge by what you see, for in a few short weeks, you could be me.
Fucking hell, man.
So, that was my...
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good, mate.
Thank you.
That kind of just fucking. I don't know what happened.
That's right. You want to see a quote now then?
No, I'm wanting a nip of whiskey.
Right.
God, I would love to see that quote, mate. That
Right.
That just kind of poked at something there.
Right. Cool.
Something. No, honestly, but this is. I don't know why. I don't know if this is true for all men, but I think it is. So the two primary fears for men and women. Women, it's body image. That's a primary kind of like the thing that they're most vulnerable of, afraid of. And you can see that all over the world. For men, it's, the technical term is, don't be a pussy. Don't be weak.
Mm.
You know, don't show emotion, don't show... So we're raised that way. But we realise it's a big fucking lie. We need it more than ever.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And so, like, when you're... I know that poem is good because the reaction was real. I wasn't expecting that.
Right. Okay.
So, no, I appreciate
Sorry.
it.
No.
Don't be sorry. I'm saying thank you because this is how I get better in my life.
Mhm.
I have this concept where it's just like open the bleed off, which is like, just let some of it off.
Yeah.
Let some of the fucking pressure off, mate. There's no cure. There's no cure. This is called your life. Your life doesn't need cured. You're going through something. If it's too much, just take your fucking brakes off a little bit, ease
Aye.
off, just like slow down. It's not going to get fixed,
Aye.
but we can definitely tempo it down a little bit because it's going to come back up again.
Yeah.
Poetry is sustenance. That is sustenance.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Good man.
So, aye, let's have a look at this stuff.
Have we got the quotes to start with again, Tarry? Or so this
Man,
is the.
Well,
Oh, I need to sit down.
if you sit down,
Oh,
you actually can. This is brilliant, man. If you can manage it, pal.
Right. Okay.
Just so we can hear you and you can hear yourself and just
Right. So what we have here. I'm not going to be able to stand up or anything like that.
it's
right?
okay, it's okay.
Right.
Just we can get a,
So this is the.
oh, it's got arms.
It's got arms. This is a coat. So you can wear this.
Of course it's got
Tara,
arms,
you
Steve.
want-
What the fuck?
Tara, you want
I don't know
to
why I
stick
was
that on,
thinking
or-
of a sleeping bag there.
No, what it is, so this is your coat. So you can wear that as a normal coat.
Aye.
All right, you step into it. This is a step into design, a wee bit different from our other one, right? But there's the lining. So it's
really like
aye,
what's the
so
word
it's
I'm
a
looking
Sherpa fleece. So it's a proper fleece lining,
for? Wow.
waterproof, windproof.
Really?
Yeah, and as I say, and it's fleece lined. Now the smart bit about this, so you're wearing that as a coat, and you've got your bag there to keep it in during the day.
Oh, look at your bag's got fleecy enough.
Aye, because this then becomes part of the sleeping bag. This is the bit that goes on the bottom.
See that you can tell you were an engineer. Because I was like, fuck, that's well engineered that.
So this is so this zips in there like that, Steve, and this bit goes in there,
This is I'm blown away by this.
right? And that then is your sleeping bag for at night time. And this is a bag during the day, obviously.
Yeah, aye.
A bag during the day. Now this was the bit I was telling you about. This is the zip at the bottom.
Okay.
And the guy wanted so you can
Right.
stick your feet out. So what you can do, if you imagine you've got that on, you just stick your feet at the bottom and you can run away and whatever. Do you know? But
Do you know what I love about that? Is it's tactical.
yeah,
Do you know how fucking much I want that when I was a soldier? Do you know what we used to do? Right, in the army, right? So we would have to sleep in a bivvy bag. You'd have the sleeping bag, and then you'd have your Gore-Tex liner over
Aye,
it.
aye.
It's like a sock that you would get into. You would sleep with your feet inside your bergen, right? Inside your day sack, your bergen, and that's how you go to sleep. So if you had to get out of shit, you
Aye.
could just kick your feet and
Aye.
put the sleeping bag into the bag, pick up your bergen and run. It's called bugging out.
right.
I wanted that.
Aye.
That would zip run.
There you go. That's it.
Oh my god, that would have been fucking brilliant.
So another thing is as well is it's if you need to go up and go to the toilet in the middle of the night as well, then you just stick your feet at the bottom and go to the toilet. You know. So no, it's amazing.
It is. Can I get a feel of it?
Sure. There you go.
Sorry. This is fucking ace, man.
So they cost us.
What's that? Oh, the OOTSIDER.
The
What was that?
OOTSIDER,
OOTSIDER.
aye.
You can see that there. Eh?
Aye.
It just
So
feels
you know,
good.
did we go through why it's called the outsider? So you alluded to the bread.
Well, that was just a wee jokey kind
No,
of
that's,
breaking the ice.
this is it. So the thing is with outsider is that when I wanted it to have a name, and I wanted the name to mean something as well,
Okay.
right? So for me, when I was growing up, it was called the outsider, right? So the question I'm going to ask you is, what did you do with the outsiders, the heels of the bread that you called them,
Right. I still use them.
right? But what
That-
do you do with them before you use them? Well, let me answer the question. What you tend to do is throw them away,
Oh no.
or you toast them,
Toast. It's Irish toast.
right? But some folk will throw them away,
Really?
right?
Who are these fucking freaks?
Well, see, we're not off of Aberdeen, you see, so
Oh, here we go.
no.
I'm
So,
for Bamber originally, so
no, but what you take is folk will throw them away, right? Or they'll toast them. So the idea of the sleeping coat here is that if you toast them, you're nice and toasty inside your outsider,
outsider.
but you've also been thrown out of society, right? And you're also, what you're sleeping outside. So you're outside society, you're sleeping outside and you're nice and toasty in there. Now, I have 5 wee grandsons. I had 4 at the time.
Yeah.
So a letter for each of their names makes up the outsider. And see the wee dots that's on there?
Aye.
That represents each of my grandsons. So there's 4 colours there. So it's a very, very personal thing for me as well. And the name has got a meaning to it as well. So that's why it's the outsider.
I love that.
Good.
John, this is one of the most powerful conversations I've had in a long time.
Thank
it was
you.
really unexpected,
Mhm.
which makes it even more.
Right.
It means a lot. But you've come on here. You're doing this wonderful work, and this is the work of the world. Doing something that actually makes the world a bit better. Nobody can fucking solve. Nobody can save the world, but you can save someone's world. And I think that's what it's about. You know, it's too much for any individual to try and take on these huge tasks, these huge challenges that we have in front of us. You know, poverty, hunger. You know, it's funny because you were talking about you know, people throw out these. I call it the heel game, but the outsider, and that never happened in my house because I was fucking grateful if there was loaf. And
There you go.
I mean, like, I had one Christmas Day where we had no food. You know, I struggled growing up. Like, we had nothing.
Uh-huh.
So I know what it's like to not have food. What a concept. You know, it's a great thing. Why would fucking throwing it away?
We throw it away, exactly.
It's like that meme, you know, the kid in Africa about people with they've got that much clean water that they shit in it. You know, like, you've got that much fucking clean water that you're shitting in it.
Aye.
Like,
Aye.
could we have some of that?
Wow. Aye. I've never thought of that one before, actually.
It's mad,
Aye.
you know.
Aye.
So I've lived and worked in the harshest environments known to man. Kosovo, when it was at the height of the war. Iraq, when it was being bombed back to the fucking Stone Age. I've worked in Africa. I am reminded in my life just how fucking great this country is. Are there things that are wrong with it? Yes, there are. But if you can turn on a light, boil a kettle, have a pot noodle or a slice of loaf that day, if that's all you have in the cupboard, even if you have a packet of almonds and that's all you've got today, you're doing all right. It would be great to get more and to have nicer things. We all fucking want better. But if you've got a roof, a bit of food, you're not getting shot at, and your life isn't in danger, and you're not having to fight the elements, and that this becomes part of being able to live, not just to be a person, that you are doing okay. So if anyone's watching this, please go and check out The Outsider. You're on Instagram?
We're on Instagram, yeah.
Instagram. Where else can we find you?
Facebook, we've got a website. Is that it? And TikTok as well. I'm told TikTok as well.
Yeah. Well, if there's definitely going to be some wicked TikToks coming out of this one.
No, and that's it. Aye.
Yeah.
Oh, aye, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well.
I'll add you on LinkedIn as well. I like
Yep.
LinkedIn. I think I'll definitely buy one. I love it. I
Brilliant.
think this is great.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, John, honestly, man, thank you so much for coming up,
Oh, thank you.
because you
Thank
drove
you.
up and that means a lot. It's such a good conversation. There's definitely more I would like to talk about here.
Brilliant. Aye.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
But yeah, go and check it out. The Outsider. Thank fuck it wasn't me that built this, because it would be called The Heel. What kind of name is this? Brilliant stuff, man.
All right.
All right, Paul, nice one.
Thank you very much.
No bother.
Cool.
You've
That
been
was
needing another.
brilliant, actually.
Oh, mate, that was fucking... No joke, that was brand new, man. Oh, man, here, honestly, man.
Right.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Cheers.